not the generational times, but the new year. Yeah. Okay, so basically we had yesterday. Interesting setup. Okay. We had yesterday. They're going to get more people in this way. Okay. So we had yesterday at the very end, there's something called pigel. Pigel is that when you slaughter an animal with intent to throw the blood, either throw the blood or eat the offering outside of its place or outside of its time. So new coffee madness, new year for everybody. So basically, when we're on the bottom of 9b, we're going to start from the bottom of 9b. Basically, when you slaughter an animal and you have the wrong intentions for when you're going to throw it, that's called pigel. So now that's going to be important because we want to know when you slaughter an animal and you have the wrong intention, you have the wrong offering in mind, or that you're going to throw the blood for a different person. You're going to throw the blood for a Ola offering. So you're slaughtering the animal, but you're having the wrong intention when it comes to your future throwing of the blood. Is that something which is going to invalidate the animal or not? Let's just start from the bottom of 9b. Itmar, shachta lishma. You shechted the animal lishma for the right intentions. But you have in mind when you're shechting, when you're slaughtering, you're going to throw the blood for the wrong intentions. Is that invalidate the animal or does that not invalidate the animal? Until now, we've only seen if you slaughter for the wrong intention, or when you're throwing it for the wrong intention, or you're receiving it for the wrong intention. Now we want to know, can one service, can an invalid thought about a different service invalidate this service? Yes or no? So Rabbi Yochanan Omer Psula, Rabbi Yochanan says it will invalidate. Reish Lakish Omer Ksheira, he says it will not invalidate. What's their debate? Rabbi Yochanan Omer Psula Mechashem Mevoda Lavoda. He says it's going to be invalid because we are mechashem, literally thinking from one service to another service. And how do I know that such a thing invalidates? That's called pigel. That we learn from pigel. Pigel is you're slaughtering on condition. Let's say you have an animal that you have to eat in one day. You have to eat it in one day. So when you're slaughtering, you have in mind, I'm going to throw the blood tomorrow. Throwing the blood tomorrow is not valid. But right now you're slaughtering, you're not throwing the blood. So if you do that, that will, according to everybody, invalidate the offering. So says Rabbi Yochanan, just like you have that in mind, so if I have the wrong intentions in mind for the throwing of the blood, it will also invalidate. For Reish Lakish Amar Ksheira, Reish Lakish says no, it's actually good, it's valid. Ein mechashin mevoda, one service cannot invalidate another service. V'lo yafina memachshavas pigel, and we are not going to learn out and derive it from machshavas pigel. Why? Why doesn't Reish Lakish learn from pigel? Sounds like a very good place to learn from, because Rashi explains that Reish Lakish understands the primary invalidation of pigel is that it's not that you're thinking so much to throw the blood in now time, but you are it's that you are is going to be eaten at the wrong time. So it's not so much you're having in mind the different service you're going to do, but the primary invalidation is that you're doing something which is going to be eaten at the wrong time. And he brings a proof that even if you have in mind when you're slaughtering the animal that you're going to sacrifice the fats at the wrong time. So you're slaughtering the animal, having in mind that you're going to sacrifice the fats at the wrong time. Sacrificing the fats is not one of the primary services, and yet it's going to invalidate. It's going to be pigel. So it says Reish Lakish, the primary reason why pigel is something which invalidates is not so much that you had in mind to do a service in the wrong time. You had in mind to really eat the offering or to do other things at the wrong time. And even if you have in mind to bring the fats at the wrong time, that's also going to invalidate. Okay, so that is a debate, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Now we say, going on to the next page, and they're going to go according to their reasoning. What's their reasoning? Ditmar, it says Hashochet as a behemoth. So now you're slaughtering a regular animal, nothing to do with a korban anymore. You slaughter a regular animal. However, you want your meat for Yontif, so you slaughter an animal. While you're slaughtering it, you have in mind you're going to throw its blood for idol worship. So, does that invalidate? Does that Oh, got it. Does that invalidate the? Does that invalidate the slaughtering or no? So, or you have in mind when you slaughter, you're going to offer the fats up as idol worship. Is that going to invalidate your current slaughtering or not? So Rabbi Yochanan Amar Asura. Rabbi Yochanan says yes. Even having in mind now for idol worship, for things done later on for idols, is going to right now invalidate your slaughtering. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Asura. Why? Mechashvin, we do think you can invalidate one service or one act by thinking incorrectly about another act. V'yalfinan chutz mipnim, and we learn out chutz. Chutz is the outer, so outer slaughtering is just referring to regular slaughtering that's done outside the temple. Regular slaughtering, we learn out there from mibifnim, from the slaughtering that's done on the inside of the temple. So we're learning regular slaughtering from the slaughtering done in the temple, from pigel. Reish Lakish Amar no muteris ein mechashen avoda levoda. He says it's permitted. If I slaughter an animal now, and it's totally good slaughtering, and I have in mind that later I'm going to throw the blood for idol worship, that is not going to invalidate my current offering. And we do not learn, we do not learn outer slaughtering, meaning regular slaughtering, from inner slaughtering, meaning slaughtering which is done in the temple. So you see really three debates, meaning really two debates. Can you learn from pigel? Pigel is when you slaughter in the temple and you have in mind you're going to throw the blood outside of its time or outside of its place. We're going to see that those are verses in the Torah. That's for sure prohibited. Can that be your paradigm for other things? Yes or no? Rabbi Yochanan says yes. And therefore, even when you have the wrong intentions, when you're slaughtering a chatas, but having in mind that you're going to throw the blood for some other guy or some other offering, it's going to invalidate your current slaughtering. Rish Lakish says no. And also another place where we see their debate is when you slaughter for a regular animal, having in mind to throw its blood or burn its fats for idols. Rabbi Yochanan says that's going to invalidate the current slaughtering. And Rish Lakish says no, that's not going to invalidate the current slaughtering. Says the Gemara, why do you have to have both teachings? Maybe only here Rish Lakish says it's a valid off, meaning only here where you're slaughtering a regular animal, having in mind to sacrifice or to throw its blood for idol worship, there he'll agree it's not going to invalidate the slaughtering. But maybe when we're talking about slaughtering a chatas or slaughtering a korban, a sacrifice, having in mind with the wrong intentions for a different sacrifice or different owners, maybe that's already, they're both related to a chatas. They're both related to sacrifices. There, maybe he'll agree to Rabbi Yochanan. Therefore, we teach that even there he disagrees. V'yashmin and ha, b'ha kamar Rabbi Yochanan, aval b'hahi, ema modi le l'reish lakish, and go the other way also. If you only taught that, I think it's if you only taught over there by the sacrifices, so there Rabbi Yochanan will agree that it's going to invalidate. But maybe when it's talking about outside the temple service, when you're slaughtering an animal and you have in mind for idol worship, so that he'll agree to Reish Lakish, it would really be, it would really be valid. Kamashmal, then no. Both cases, Rabbi Yochanan says it's going to be invalid, and both cases, Reish Lakish says it's going to be valid. So their dispute stems from, can you use pigel as a paradigm for other things? Yes or no? Rabbi Yochanan says yes, and Reish Lakish says no. Okay. Now, Kiyasa Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came, he came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, and he said, Maser Rabbi Yirmiyah l'siyul the Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yilah l'siyul the Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yirmiyah had a support for Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yilah had a support for Reish Lakish. Let's see. Rabbi Yirmiyah l'siyul the Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yirmiyah brought a support for Rabbi Yochanan. Amar Hareini Shochet. Let's say a guy slaughters an animal and he says, I'm going to be slaughtering it outside the right time. meaning, well, right now you're slaughtering in the right time, but so you're not thinking about eating the sacrifice. You're not thinking about throwing the blood. You say, I will be slaughtering it outside the right time. So even though I have, let's say today to slaughter it, I'll be slaughtering it tomorrow, even though right now you're slaughtering it. So it's fine because right now you're slaughtering it. So hareini shochet chutzas mano shehu kasher. That's totally valid. And yet, shachto almanas lizrok damo, slaughtering on condition to throw the blood, chutzas mano, is invalid. But if I'm doing the same slaughtering now, having in mind to throw the blood outside of the right time, so I'm doing a slaughtering now, and I only have one day to do all the services, but I have in mind that I'm going to throw the blood tomorrow, that's going to invalidate the offering. So then, makom shim amar hareini shochet shelo lishmo, let's say I slaughter, and I say I'm slaughtering for the wrong reasons, that's going to invalidate the offering. So then for sure, so for sure, if I slaughter on condition that I throw the blood for the wrong reasons, shouldn't that for sure invalidate the offering? So this is a support for Rabbi Yochanan, that through the Kal V'chomer of Pigel, where we can learn to having the wrong intentions, that if you slaughter and you have in mind to throw the blood with the wrong intent, that should invalidate your slaughtering. So that sounds good. On that we say, Masket Rava bar Ahilai, Rava the son of Ahilai says, no, you can't bring a proof from Pigel to us. Why? Ma chutz lizmano, if you have in mind the regular case where you're slaughtering an animal, but you have in mind to throw the blood on the wrong day, so that you get kares, shekain kares. But if you have the wrong intention in mind, you have the wrong offering in mind, or let's say the wrong person in mind, that does not get you kares. The most it'll do is by two of the sacrifices, it'll invalidate the sacrifice. But it's not kares. Having in mind that you're going to throw the blood at the wrong place or the wrong time, that's going to get you kares. So you can't learn from Pigel. Pigel is very strict. Maybe only such a strict invalidation will have those rules, but you can't learn from there to having the wrong intentions in mind. So Ela Amarava Bara Hilai, this is what he meant to say. Hakikama. Uma makom, just like in a place. Shim Amar Hareini Shochet Chutzlam Komo. A guy says, I will be slaughtering outside of the right place. Now, right now he's slaughtering in the right place. But he says, I'm going to be slaughtering in the wrong place. Obviously, that's a valid korban shu kasher because his actions totally contradict what he's saying. So that's fine, right? So the guy's yelling, I'm not putting on tefillin as he's rapping. So okay, great. You call the security team, you know what I'm saying? So Ari Shoket Chutzlam Komo, or you talk about, yeah. So Ari Shoket Chutzlam Komo Shu Kasher. And yet, even though that case is valid, Shachto al Menas Lizrog Damo, but if you slaughter on condition to throw the blood outside of the right place, that's going to invalidate your sacrifice. So let's say you have to throw the blood on the outer altar, a classic case. And you say, I'm going to throw my blood by the Willamette River, right? So you're slaughtering the animal in Jerusalem, having it on you, and throw the blood by the Willamette River. So that's going to be that, or outside of Jerusalem, probably more realistic. Outside of Jerusalem, that's going to invalidate your current slaughtering. That's Pigel. Therefore, learn from there. If right now I say I'm slaughtering with the wrong intentions, that will invalidate my slaughtering. So shouldn't we learn from there that so for sure, if that will invalidate my slaughtering, which by Pigel it does not invalidate, so for sure it should be as strict as Pigel, that if I have in mind when I'm slaughtering that I'm going to have in mind to throw the blood for the wrong intentions, shouldn't that for sure invalidate my current offering? So that would be a support for Rabbi Yochanan. To that we say, let's see. Mascular of Ashi, he has a rebuttal on this. This invalidation where you have in mind to throw the blood outside of the right place, sin offering and a Pesach offering. But the rest of them remain valid. You just can't fulfill your obligation, but they remain valid. Ella Amar of Hashi, Hachi Kamar. This is what I mean to say. Uma, third attempt. Uma b'makom shim Amar Hareini Shochet. L'shem Ploni Shehu Kasher. So now we're leaving Pigel and we're going to intentions. A guy slaughters, and he says, I'm slaughtering L'shem Ploni for a different person. That's going to be kosher. And yet when you say Lizrog Damo L'shem Ploni puzzle, but if you're going to throw the blood for another person, that's going to invalidate. So makom shim amar hareini shochet shelo lishman. So in a place where I say I'm going to shecht with the wrong intentions, shehu pasol. For sure, if I'm shechting, al manas lizrog daman shloshma. If I'm shechting now, slaughtering now, to throw the blood with the wrong intention for the wrong sacrifice, eino dinshe pasol. Shouldn't that be an invalidation? So just like if I have the wrong person in mind when I'm shechting, that's going to be, if I have in mind the wrong person when I'm currently slaughtering, that's going to be fine. But if I have the wrong person in mind when I'm slaughtering, and I throw the blood for the wrong person, it's going to invalidate. So for sure, when I slaughter with the wrong intention, if that invalidates, for sure, if I slaughter having the wrong intentions for when I throw the blood, that should for sure invalidate. So that is the support that was brought for Rabbi Yochanan, this kal v'chomer, that if you slaughter and you have in mind that you're going to throw the blood for a different sacrifice, that should invalidate. Okay. That's all good for Rabbi Yochanan. Now let's go for Reish Lakish, who says that if you slaughter and have the wrong intention when you're slaughtering, that you're going to throw it for the wrong intention, throw the blood, that it's going to be valid, not like Rabbi Yochanan, and that's going to be valid. Rabbi Ilah l'siyua l'Reish Lakish. What is Rabbi Ilah's support for Reish Lakish? So he says, Lo tomar bezrika v'teisi mikal v'chomer mi binyana meshchita v'kabbalah. So basically, background, that we had different verses earlier that taught us that if you have the wrong intention in mind, it's going to invalidate all of the services. We had at least by the Shlomim, we had slaughtering and throwing the blood. They each had their own verse to teach you that you have to have the right intentions in mind. So Rabbi Ilah is saying like this: why don't you not learn out that verse that tells you that by zrika, by throwing the blood, you have to have the right intentions? Don't learn from that verse. Keep that open for exposition and learn from a kal v'chomer, from slaughtering and accepting the blood. From those two, you could learn that you have to have the right intention when you throw the blood. If that would be true, then what do you do with the verse that teaches us that you would have to throw the blood for the right intention? Now that I opened up that verse for exposition, because I can learn out throwing the blood from the other services, from slaughtering and from accepting the blood, what would that verse be? It's just there in the Torah, open for exposition. It's there to teach me that we do not invalidate one service because of a thought you had about another service. And that was his support for Reish Lakish. That's why Reish Lakish could say what he says, or it's not. That's not why he says what he says, but it'll be a support for him. So, okay. So, yeah. It's just a funny thing a little bit. Earlier, we said that Reish Lakish's reasoning is that he doesn't learn from Pigel. He has reasons to not learn from Pigel. So, according to this, though, it almost sounds like if not for this verse that's open for exposition, you would learn from Pigel. I don't know, it's a little bit interesting in Reish Lakish. Okay, so Masket Rav Papa. So now Rav Papa has a question. Vidilma, maybe that verse is open for exposition. You know why? To teach you that you do invalidate one service for having the wrong thoughts about another service. That's why the verse is open for exposition, to teach you that it is invalid, not like you thought that it's not going to invalidate. Maybe it's open for exposition that it will invalidate. So to that he says, Im Kain lishto kramine. Then the pasuk shouldn't have said anything. It shouldn't have taught us that. And just v'teisi mikal v'chomer. And then you could have learned it out from a kal v'chomer. Meaning, if the Torah wanted to teach me that I'm going to invalidate one service with having in mind the wrong intentions for a different service, so then I would not need a special verse to teach me that. That I could have learned out from a Kal V'chomer. And what will be that Kal V'chomer? The one that we had earlier, the one that was brought as a support for Rabbi Yochanan. That just like you have, just like when you're slaughtering for the wrong person, it's kosher, but to throw the blood for the wrong person, it's invalid. For sure, if you're slaughtering with the wrong intention, if that's invalid, for sure, if you're slaughtering to throw the blood for the wrong intention, for sure that'll be invalid. So you could have learned that from that Kal V'chomer, to which we wouldn't need an extra verse. To which we're saying the reason why you have this extra verse now is to teach you that it's going to be valid even if you have the wrong intentions. And you would not learn from the Kal V'chomer. Yeah. 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 Now the idach parachachi, the other opinion, what's it going to say? How's Rabbi Yochanan going to respond to this? He's going to say you cannot learn from the slaughtering and the accepting of the blood. You cannot learn that throwing the blood onto the altar has to have the right sacrifice in mind from the fact that slaughtering and accepting the blood has to have the right sacrifice in mind. Why can't you learn from those two? Because Ma'alahanach, slaughtering and accepting the blood, have certain stringencies that throwing the blood does not have. What are those stringencies? Shekain te'unos tzafon. They have to be brought in the north, slaughtered and accepted in the north. And there are certain sacrifices that the blood is only done on the inner altar, as opposed to throwing out the blood, which is done on the outer altars. So those two, the slaughtering and the accepting the blood, have stringencies that throwing of the blood doesn't have. Therefore, you could not learn out from a Kal V'chomer. Therefore, you do need that verse to teach you that you have to throw the blood with the right intentions in mind, because you would not be able to learn it out through a Kal V'chomer. Okay, so now what does the other opinion hold? The idach, okay, but hashta mia b'shlomim kaimina. Okay, that's true by a sin offering, but at least by the shlomim offerings, there you could learn out zrika, throwing of the blood through a Kal V'chomer, because when it comes to the peace offerings, we're not going to the north and we're not bringing on the inner altar. So you only have those stringencies when it comes to the sin offerings. You have to slaughter it in the north and accept the blood in the north. But at least by the peace offerings, Reish Lakish will say that there you could learn it from a Kal V'chomer, to which the verse is open for exposition to teach you that one service, having in mind the wrong service, is not going to invalidate your current service. Okay. One more lines on this topic and then the next topic. So it's yeah, we need to chart this all out. So Itmar Shachta, or watch the Daf Yomi video. He has a 5-minute review on the Daf. Yeah. So Itmar, maybe I'll send it out. Itmar Shachta Lishma, Lizor Dama Shal Lishma. Okay, so once again, you're slaughtering with the right intention. I'm slaughtering an offering with having the right offering in mind. Lizrog Dama, but I want to throw the blood for a different offering. Shalo Lishma. Rav Nachman Amar Psula, he says it's invalid. That's like Rabbi Yochanan. And Rabba Amar Kshira, that's like Reish Lakish. And then it says, V'hadr be Rabba legabi Rav Nachman mikal v'chomer de Rav Ashi. At the end of the day, though, Rabba retracted his ruling, and he agreed with Rav Nachman that it's going to be invalid due to the Kal V'chomer that we had earlier of Rav Ashi. So Rabba will agree to, both Rabba and Rav Nachman are going to agree to Rav Ashi that it is going to invalidate it. That sounds like the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. Okay. Now, the next part of our Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer said, not only is the sin offering and the Pesach offering something which, if you have the wrong offering in mind, it's actually going to invalidate the offering, but the Asham, the other kind of what they call the guilt offering, that's also going to, if you have the wrong sacrifice in mind while doing the services of the Asham offering, that's also going to invalidate it. Not just the Chatas and not just the Pesach offering, but also the Asham offering. So we're going to ask, how did you know that? Tanya Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Chatas ba lachet. Very simple. A sin offering is brought for a sin. The Asham ba alachet, and the guilt offering is brought for a sin. Ma chatas shelo lishma psula. Just like a chatas, if you have the wrong intentions, it's invalid. So to a asham, an asham offering, shelo lishma is also possible, also invalid. Very simple. So he says back, Amar lo Rabbi Yeshua. Says Rabbi, so Amar lo Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua tells him, "Look, that's not a good place to learn it out from. Why? Im Amr's bechata shekain dama lamala. At the end of it, so some sacrifices, when you throw the blood, there was this red string on the altar. Some of the blood was thrown on top of the red string, and some was thrown on the bottom of the red string. We're going to see more about that as we go. So it's called the chuta sikra. This red thread. So it's in the third chapter in the Mishnah called Midos, the different measurements of the temple. There, Rashi points out there, it talks about it. So the chatos, the animal chatos is the blood is thrown on top, and also the ola sa'of, the bird ola offering is also on top. But the rest of the sacrifices, if it doesn't speak it out where the blood is thrown, is going to go under the red string. So basically, a chatos has a certain uniqueness about it. The blood has to be thrown on top of the red string, on the top, and therefore an asham is not like that. So we see that a chatas and asham are different. So once they're different in that area, who says you can learn out one from the other? Yeah. So Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer, no, I'll prove it to you. Pesach yochiach. The Pesach offering will be my proof. Why? There the blood is thrown below the red string. And yet, if you slaughter for the wrong intentions, it's going to be invalid. So you see that having the wrong intentions in validating an offering has nothing to do with where the blood is thrown. Because even a Pesach offering, where the blood is thrown under the red string, yet if you have the wrong intentions, it's going to be invalid. So that's not a good rebuttal. So Amar lo Rabbi Yeshua. Okay, Rabbi Yeshua says back though, Ma'ala Pesach shechein zmano kavua. Yeah, but you can't learn from a Pesach offering because a Pesach offering is a set time. It's only on the 14th. It's very stringent. You have one day to bring that Pesach offering. So maybe what?
1 half day, maybe.
1 half day, yeah. 1 half day. 1 half day to bring the Pesach offering. So therefore, you cannot learn from that either. So that's not a good place to learn from. So to that we say Amar Rabbi Eliezer, chatas tochiach. Okay, but a chatas does not have a set day. It's whenever you sin, you have to bring the offering. So that is going to be my proof that having a set day is not indicative of it being invalid if I have the wrong intentions. Because we see a chatas is not like that. So each one has a chatas has the fact that it's thrown on top of the red string. A Pesach has the fact that it's on a set time. Both those uniquenesses we see seemingly have nothing to do with having the wrong intentions, making it invalid, because chatas will prove to you that if it doesn't have a set time. Pesach will prove to you that if you throw the blood under the string. So, and both of them, if you have the wrong intentions, they're going to be invalid. So, Amar lo, so to that Rabbi Yeshua says, turn the page, Chosrani Chalila. So basically, we're going to go in a circle, and we're not going to establish the law. So the Gemara is going to ask later, the next logical step whenever you have two things that are unique but share a commonality is Mahatzad. Just like they're both unique, but they have a similarity that they all, if they're slaughtered for the wrong reasons, it's going to be invalid. You should include an asham in that group also. So that the Gemara is going to ask, why don't we do that? That's the next logical step. But why didn't Rabbi Yeshua say that? Instead, he said it's going to go in a circle, and therefore I can't establish it. Okay. Yeah. So Chazar Rabbi Eliezer, Vidano din acher. Rabbi Eliezer went back, so to speak, and he learned a different halacha. It says by achatas number he b'shchita. It says he b'shchita. It says he b'shchita. He l'shma kshera, shelo l'shma psula. It says the word he that you have. It really should be who, no? Yeah, it's who, not he. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Chatas who. What did I do? Maybe the Gemara made a mistake. Not the Gemara made a mistake, but the Rashi is talking about the Shchitas Seir Nasi. Yeah, kind of. It should be. I don't know. It should be who, I think.
Yeah,
Oh.
we said that put who in
Parentheses. Yeah. Right. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. So, okay, either way. So it says hu b'shchita. So, hu l'shmak shera, but shalosh psula. It says by achatas, if it says the word who, that it has to be done with the right intentions. And if you have the wrong intentions, it's going to invalidate the offering. Hu pesach nemar, hu b'zvicha, hu l'shmo kasher, shlo l'shmo pasol. If you have by a Pesach offering the right intentions when you slaughter, then it's going to be kosher. If you have the wrong intentions when you slaughter, then it's going to be invalid. So now, it says Rabbi Eliezer, af asham. So to our other sin offering, the guilt offering, nemar bohu, hu l'shmo kasher, shlo l'shmo pasol. I can learn from the word who that what? It has to have the right intention when you slaughter it, but if you have the wrong intention, it's going to be invalid. To that says Rabbi Yeshua, no, where was who mentioned by the asham? It was mentioned afterwards by the bringing of the limbs. After you threw the blood already, and you already got atonement, it says who by the next part, when you have all the other limbs of the offering that you could bring up. But that's not essential for the slaughter, for the sacrifice to take to have an atonement, to give an atonement. He says, Amar Yeshua chatas namar bahi b'shchita. It says, I don't know how to do that. Okay. I don't know how to do that. Namar bahi b'shchita, really, hu b'shchita. He l'shmak she'er shalosh mapsula. It says that it has to be. Maybe it's just paraphrasing. It's referring to the chatas as a he because he is feminine, and the chatas is always brought as a feminine offering. So it's not just so much quoting the verse; it's more paraphrasing that it, meaning it, which is a she. To who? Yeah, I'm wondering. I'm just trying to defend this version. Maybe it's just paraphrasing. The chatas offering, which is a female animal. That's why it says he, not who. I don't know. So either way, it says that word by the shchita and to teach you that it has to be done for the right intentions. And if it's for the wrong intentions, it's going to be invalid. And a Pesach namar hu b'zvicha hu l'shmo kasher shlo pasol. And a Paschal offering says the same word who to teach you. You have to have the right intentions when you slaughter, and if you have the wrong intentions, it's going to be invalid. But in Asham, where does it say who? Asham lo namar bohu ela le'achar haktoras emurin. After you bring the remaining limbs of the animal up to the altar, then it says the word who. And over there, if you don't bring those limbs up on the altar, it's still a valid sacrifice. As long as you slaughtered it and then you threw the blood on the altar, you're good to go. If afterwards you don't bring the extra limbs, it's a mitzvah to do it, but if you don't do it, it's still a valid offering. The person gets atonement. So the word who was mentioned over there, so that's not a good source. Who atzmo shelo huktu emirin kosher. So that should be Shua's rebuttal to Rabbi Eliezer. Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer, but Harei hu omer kechatas. It sounds like it says, but an asham should be like a chatas. Kechatas ke'asham. Like a chatas is like an asham. What does that mean? Machatas shalosh pasol. Af asham shalo l'shmo pasol. Just like a chatas. If you have the wrong intention, it's going to be invalid. So kechatas ke'asham. So too, if you have the wrong intentions for a asham, that's going to be invalid as well. So that's going to be Rabbi Eliezer's exposition that an asham is also going to be invalid, just like a chatas and just like a Pesach offering. It's for the late minyan. We have 2 minyanim. We're that big. So okay, let's start. Amar Rabbi Yeshua Chaitrani Chalila. So we said earlier that Rabbi Yeshua said, we're going in circles. Pesach chatas offering, I can't learn an asham. So says the Gemara, what's the problem? V'lahadar dina v'leisid b'mahatzad. Why didn't you just learn it from a mahatzad? Just like a chatas offering, even though the blood's on top. But yet, if you have the wrong intentions, it's going to be invalid. And a Pesach offer, and it's not at a set time, a Pesach offering, which is a set time, but the blood is under the red string, that's also going to be invalid if you have the wrong intentions. So from both of them, you could learn that an asham, if it has the wrong intentions, should be invalid. Why did Rabbi Yeshua not say that? So to that he answers, Mishum the Ikala Miprach. You could have rejected that exposition. Why? How? Both a chatas and a Pesach offering are both very strict. They both have a kares element to them. A chatas is only brought for somebody who did something that if they would do it advertently, it would be chai of kares. They did it inadvertently. Now they bring a chatas. And a Pesach offering is unique that if it's one of the two positive commandments, that if you don't bring it, it's going to get you get kares.